Salve omnes, welcome to this video lesson on chapter 26, and we're starting section 3 at line 83 today. Haec verba locutus, having spoken these words, and these are the words basically announcing it's time for them to escape. Daedalus cum filio sursum e labyrinto evolavit. Daedalus with his son, cum filio, flew out, evolavit, up from the labyrinth. Sursum e labyrinto, flew up out of the labyrinth. Neque quisquam fugam eorum animadvertit, nor does anyone notice, or nor did anyone notice. Animadvertit can be present or perfect, but since evolawit is perfect, I think perfect is the best way to translate it. So nor did anyone notice. Animadvertit, to turn your mind toward the thing, to notice or realize it. Nor did anyone realize their escape or notice their escape, fugam eorum, nisi aliqui pastor, except for some shepherd. Okay, so there was one random shepherd who just happened to see them. Qui forte suspiciens, who by chance looking up, suspiciens, eos tamquam magnas aves volantes vidit, saw them, vidit eos, flying, volantes, like big birds, tamquam magnas aves. Ac deos esse arbitratus est, and he thought that they were gods, right? Because they look like people, and of course the Greek gods look like human beings, but have a lot more powers available to them, some of them able to fly. Mox pater et filius Cretam reliquerunt. Soon the father and the son left Crete. Neque vero, nor indeed, recta via, by a direct path, by a direct road, Atenas in patrium suum volaverunt, did they fly, volaverunt, to Athens, to their homeland. Sed nova libertate delectati, but delighted by their new freedom, nova libertate, ablative case, in magnum orbem supra mare Aegaeum volare coiperunt, they began to fly, coiperunt volare, in a big circle, in magnum orbem, above the Aegean Sea. Icarus despiciens, Icarus looking down, multitudinem insularum miratus est, wondered at, or was amazed at, miratus est. Now, miror, mirari is one of these deponent verbs. So again, miratus est is a two-word perfect passive, but we translate it active. Looking down, Icarus wondered at, or was amazed at, sort of admired, we could also say, the multitude of the islands, the great number of the islands. And we looked in the video lesson for the last chapter, we looked at the map of Greece, right? And you could see all those crazy amount of little islands in the Aegean Sea. There really is a ton of them. Oh, quote, parvae insulae, in mare ingenti sunt. Oh, how many small islands there are in the big sea. All right, Daedalus vero, but Daedalus says, inquit, Illa insulae, haud parvae sunt, those islands are not at all small, quamquam parvae esse vidintur, although they seem to be small. Certe milos insula, quae infra nos est, non tam parva est, quam tibi videtur. Certainly the island of Milos, all right, which is below us, infra nos, is not as small as, non tam parva est quam, not as small as it seems to you, videtur to be. All right, so the point he's making is they're pretty far up, so yeah, they might look small, and you know, they're not huge islands, but they're certainly not as small as they seem to his son, who we've already seen is not particularly wise. Icarus says, sed illa insula quae nobis a sinistra est, multo maior esse mihi videtur. But that island, illa insula, which is on our left. Now, a sinistra literally means sort of from the left. So literally, quae nobis a sinistra est would mean something like which is from the left for us. But in English, we would say on the left of us, probably. Is much bigger, es multa maior, or sorry, seems to be much bigger. Sorry, videtur esse multo maior mihi, seems to me be much bigger. All right, let me do that whole sentence again because I kind of mixed it up. But that island, which is on our left, again, literally, which is from the left for us, but which is on our left, seems to me to be much bigger. Quae est illa insula? What is that island? All right, then Daedalus replies to his son, Peloponnesus est, is the Peloponnese, Graeciae pars, part of Greece, nequero insula est, nor indeed is it an island, said peninsula, but a peninsula. Now, the word peninsula in English comes from the Latin peninsula, which is pine plus insula. Pine meaning almost, insula meaning island. But it's almost an island. It's not an island, it's almost an island. Nam Peloponnesus terra angusta, for the Peloponnese by a narrow land, we might say by a narrow bit of land, quae isthmus vocatur, which is called the isthmus, cum reliqua Graecia conjungitur, is joined with the rest of Greece. And it really is a very small strip of land that joins the Peloponnese with the rest of Greece, and it goes right by the city of Corinth. In fact, at some point in the ancient world, they actually, well, many times they tried to dig a canal across there, and they eventually did accomplish this, right? So eventually in the ancient world, there was a canal that crossed the isthmus there. It was a very small bit of land. Okay, and again, towards the end of line 100, prope isthmum, next to the isthmus or near the isthmus, Cita est Corinthus. Corinth is situated. And I might note here, isthmus is capitalized here in the story because this is the isthmus. The isthmus of Corinth is a famous one. But the English word isthmus is the opposite of the English word strait. So a strait is a narrow body of water that divides land and connects two larger bodies of water, and an isthmus is a narrow strip of land that connects two larger pieces of land, right? So it can be a general term in English and also in the ancient world as well. But if you're talking about the isthmus, the famous one, it's the one at Corinth. All right, so near the isthmus, Corinth is situated. Urbs pulcherrima, a most beautiful city. It was very wealthy in the ancient world because of the trade, right? There was land trade that went back and forth across the isthmus, and you had sea trade because they had ports on both sides of the isthmus. So it was a very wealthy trade city and thus very beautiful because of all the wealth they had to show off. Nec proculab sunt Atenae, nor is Athens far away. Now do note that the verb looks like it should be are away because obsunt is plural, but that's because Atenae, Athens, is a plural city name. And that's why some city names in English will end with an S like this, like Athens. So if you notice a name like that with the S on the end that looks like it's plural, a lot of times those are coming from Greek and Latin names that actually were plural. So nor is Athens absent or far absent, far away. We use the singular in English, although it's technically a plural name for the city. All right, and then final phrase, Patria Nostra, our country, our homeland. So nor is Athens, our country, our homeland, far away. Si altius volabimus, if we shall fly higher, altius, that's a comparative adverb with the ius, non solum Graeciam, sed paene totum orbem terrarum spectabimus. Not only Greece, non solum Graecium, but also, said or but almost rather, Pine, we will look upon, spectabimus, all of the orb of lands. Now, totum orbum terrarum, all the orb of lands. Orbis terrarum, the orb of lands, is a way of saying the whole world in Latin. So, but we almost will look upon the whole world. Inquit puer temerarius, says the rash, or perhaps, what would we say, overly bold, reckless boy, temerarius puer. Atque etiam altius se levavit, and also he lifted himself up higher, altius. Ilink, from there, non solo magnas Europae et Asiae partes despiciebat mirans, not only did he look down upon, despiciebat, the great parts of Europe and Asia, wondering, mirans, verumetiam, but even oram Africae procul cernebat, he saw or discerned, cernebat, the shore of Africa, oram Africae, at a distance, procul, or we can also say far off. Dende, supra se solem in caelo sereno lucentim suspexit. Then, dende, he looked up, suspexit, above himself, supra se, upon the sun, solem, in caelo sereno lucentim, gleaming in the clear sky. And I should stop here for a moment and just point out, so he saw the great parts of Europe and Asia, and then he also saw the shore of Africa. So you can see this kind of a circular map down in the corner of the margin here on the screen, the Orbis Terrarum map. This is a kind of a TO map, as it's often called. This is typical of a kind of a mythical view of the world. Now, there were scientists in the ancient world, Greek scientists and Romans, that understood that the world was actually a sphere, based on some complicated geometric analysis of, the shadows that the sun made at different latitudes at the same time of day. But regardless of that, a lot of people thought of it like the mythical point of view from the ancient Greek myths, where ocean is this giant river that went around the circle of the lands, and that there were essentially three lands that were, roughly equal in size. You had Europe, you had Asia, and then you had Africa. And this is typical of that belief there. So if you're looking at Europe and Asia and Africa, essentially that's pretty much the world for them. Statim puer, immediately the boy, cupidus solem propius aspiciendi, desirous of looking at, cupidus aspiciendi, the sun more closely or nearer, solem propius, quamquam pater eum monuerat, although his father had warned him, monuerat is the pluperfect with the ERA, in summum caelum ascendit, he climbed to the top of the sky. So he was going up higher and higher into the air. Hic Quintus, here Quintus, qui exitum fabulae studiose expectat, who was waiting eagerly for the end of the story, interrogat, asks, Quitum accidit? What happens then? Cyril says, and you can see this illustrated in the picture, Tum factum est id quod necesse erat accidere. Then there happened, factum est, or there occurred, id quod, that which, necesse erat accidere, was necessary to happen, to occur. Ignis solis, the fire of the sun, propinqui, nearby. So propinqui is the adjective meaning near or next to, and it's agreeing with solus here in the genitive case. So then the fire of the nearby sun. Keram qua penai junctai et fixaerant moliwit. Softened, moliwit, the wax, keram, with which, notice qua is ablative, thus the with when we translate it, with which the wings had been joined, junctai erant, and had been fixed or affixed, we might say, fixai erant, et penas usit, or usit rather, and burned the feathers. Now that's just what his dad said would happen. Ay, ay, ay. Puerteritus, the frightened boy, lacertos nudos quatiens, shaking his bare arms, in mare cecidit, fell into the sea. Ac mersuses, and he was drowned. Neque pater ei auxilium fere potuit, nor was his father able to bring him help. Ea maris Aegae pars, that part, ea pars, of the Aegean Sea, maris Aegae, in qua Icarus mersus est, in which Icarus was sunken, was drowned. A nomine eius, from his name, mare Icarium, I think it's Appellatur, yes, from his name is called the Icarian Sea. Okay, so Icarus fell into the sea here, and that part of the sea is called the Icarian Sea. So it's a section of the Aegean Sea, and I believe it's near Milos, that island that they were mentioning. Itim insula propinqua, likewise the nearby island, or perhaps we might say the closest island, in cuius litere, on whose shore corpus puri inventum est, the body of the boy was found, etiam nunc Icaria vocatur, even now is called Icaria. So there's a small Greek island, and again, still today, it's called Icaria, and this island supposedly, again, is named, like the Icarian Sea, after Icarus. All right, and then line 121, Ecce omnium fabulam habes, behold, you have the whole story, de purro temerario, about the reckless boy, qui libertatem quaerens, who seeking freedom, mortem invenit, found death. Ooh, moral tale if ever I saw one. Jam tempus dormiendi est, now it is a time of sleeping. We'd probably say a time to sleep, but again, dormiendi is literally a genitive of the gerund. Non efesus est, aren't you tired? Longas fabulas audiendo. We would say of hearing long stories, but notice audiendo is the ablative. Aren't you tired out by hearing or from hearing long stories, literally? Quintus caput quatit, Quintus shakes his head. No et non sum fesus, and he says, I am not tired, non sum fesus, nec illa fabula longa esse mihi videtur, nor does that story seem to me to be long. Ex omnibus fabulis, haec de casu Icari, me maxime delectat. Out of all the stories, this one about the fall of Icarus, de casu Icari, delights me the most. Maxime delectat me. Etiam magis, even more, quam illa de filio solis, than that one about the son of the sun. And this is in reference to the myth of Phaethon. Qui currum patris regere conatus, item de sumo caelo cecidit, who, having tried to control the chariot of his father, conatus regere curum patris, likewise fell, item cecidit, de sumo caelo, from the top of the sky, quod ab urbe solis stulte aberaverat, because he had wandered away from, aberaverat, the orb of the sun, and this would mean sort of the circular path of the sun, stupidly, stulte. All right, and I mentioned that in an earlier chapter when this myth came up. Phaethon was the son of the sun god. His mom told him that. He didn't believe her. So, in order to help him believe, the sun god said, "Okay, ask whatever you want, one wish of me, and I'll give it to you." Phaethon said, "You swear?" And he said, "Yep." And he said, "Okay, I want to drive your chariot, Dad." And so Phaethon took the chariot, even though his dad, the sun god, said, "Hey, you really should do something else. This is not a smart idea." And he lost control of it, and he went too high and too low. And when he went too low, he was evaporating all the water from the land and parching it. When he went too high, the earth got cold. And eventually Zeus shot him down with a thunderbolt. All right, and he fell de sumo Kylo from the top of the sky. Right, and then again in line 129, continuing Quintus's speech, he says, "Semper valde delector, I am always very delighted, tales fabulas audiendo, in or by hearing such stories." Cyril replies, "Ego non minus delector, I am not less delighted, narrando illas fabulas, in telling those stories, non modo, not only, quod ipsae per se pulcherrimae esse mihi videnter, because they themselves, ipsae, seem to me, videnter mihi, to be beautiful, let's say most beautiful, pulcherrimae is the superlative, by themselves, per se, just in their very nature, right? Sed etiam, but also, quia exitus fabularum, because the outcomes, the endings of the stories, fabularum, homines temerarios optime monet, advise rash or reckless people, homines temerarios, very well, optime. Okay, so basically she's saying they have morals to tell us. Tales enim es hominum natura, for such is the nature of human beings, hominum, et quidim maxime puerorum, and indeed, particularly of boys, right? So boys particularly tend to be reckless. Oops. Non solum delectandi causa, not only for the sake of delighting, verum etiam, but also monindi causa, for the sake of advising or warning, narratur fabula de filio Daedali, is the story of the son of Daedalus told. Nam quod ili puro accidit, for that which happened to that boy, ili puro, idem, the same thing, omni puro accidere poterit, will be able to happen to every boy, nisi patri suo paret, unless he obeys his father. Noli Icarum imitare, don't imitate Icarus, mi quinte, my Quintus. Semper cautus esto, always be cautious. And esto is that future imperative form. It's, in other words, a synonym for es, the singular imperative. Verum haud, but by no way, necessa est, is it necessary, te a me moneri, for you to be warned by me. But it's in no way necessary for you to be warned by me, post id quod, after that which, heri tibi accidit, happened to you yesterday, heri. And she means, of course, he followed his brother Marcus's advice and climbed up in the tree onto the branch to check out the nest and fell. And he's laying in bed, still hurt, can't move his leg, swollen foot, all this stuff. Certe ille casus tuus, melius te monet. Certainly that fall of yours warns you better, melius, comparative adverb. Quam ulla fabula, than any story. Quis verbis puro monito, the boy having been warned by these words. So puro monito is the ablative absolute, and his verbis is ablative of means. So again, one more time, with the boy warned by these words or advised by these words. Sira tandem, Sira at last, narande finem facit, makes an end of telling. And again, we could just translate that idiom as something like finish telling her story. Neque quintus, eam abiuntem revocat, nor does Quintus recall her or call her back as she's going away, abiuntem. Said, in lecto recumbit, but he lies back in bed, oculosque clouded, and he closes his eyes. So he's still feeling weak and needs some sleep. He didn't get good sleep last night, right? His brother Marcus slept like a log, but Quintus did not sleep well, so he's probably quite tired from this. Mox puer insomnis sibi videtur. Soon the boy, in his dreams, seems to himself, videtur sibi, aleis ornatus, adorned with wings, trans montes et flumina volare, to fly above mountains or across the mountains and rivers. Okay, so he has a dream of flying across mountains and rivers, kind of like Icarus and Daedalus in the story he just heard. And that sometimes happens to us. If we're thinking about something before we fall asleep, it might get incorporated into our dreams. All right. And I believe that's the end. Let me just check on the end of this here. Yep, we're just going to the grammar. And we have already talked about these gerunds, but you can see them laid out here. Again, the gerund is a verbal noun. You can recognize it by the nd, the two letters nd in the stem. In first conjugation verbs like amo, amare, you get the a. In second and third, you get the e. So you get things like docindi and scribindi. And when you get a verb like dormio, dormire, or capio, capere, those are going to have I and E before the ND. So you'll have things like amandi, docindi, scribindi, dormiendi. Those are all genitives, or the dative and ablative singular forms like amando, docindo, scribindo, dormiendo. And of course, the accusative forms like amandum, docindum, scribindum, and dormiendum. All right, again, the basic way to translate it is with an ing, so like narandum is telling. But sometimes we can also do these with an infinitive in English and say something like to tell, to hear, and so on. Okay, I hope you learned a few things about